Good morning, Natalie Kyriacou. Welcome to Yellow Shelf.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Natalie, your book is coming out this week, actually, in the next few days. Congratulations, your first book. This is a book about the love of the natural world. Tell us all about it. What do we need to know?
Thank you. It's called Nature's Last Dance, Tales of Wonder in an Age of Extinction, and it's out on August 26th. And essentially, it's a quirky book. I think a lot of people look at nature or nature books and think, I'm fond of that, but it's not quite for me. And so this was my attempt at helping everybody fall in love with nature and getting nature into the mainstream. So it explores the way that nature shapes cultures, politics, economics, sort of this fusion of nature and humanity and evolution, but it's told through a range of quite quirky tales. So how the genitalia of great apes is being studied by women and uncovering this bias in evolutionary theory, or why a deputy prime minister tried to give herpes to a freshwater fish. It
Yeah.
talks about the fall and rise of the Roman Empire. It talks about the extraordinary lengths communities and people are going to protect nature. So it's a mix of tragedy and humor and sweet tales, all designed to help people understand this sort of scope of our relationship with nature, but also just to help people fall in love, really.
Yeah. And Natalie, that's what I have taken away from the book. It's actually quite important. There's really, like you said, it's quirky and there's wonderful stories, but it's a really important book for people to get their head around and embrace the natural world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we often forget our connection to nature. It's the thing that allows us to breathe and puts food on our table, builds a shelter for our homes. But also, there's these incredible stories. Like, did you know, for example, there is a little flower in Madagascar. It's called the Madagascar periwinkle, and it is known as it's the cure to childhood cancer. That flower, or the extracts from that flower, um, made up the cornerstone treatments for chemotherapy for Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. The survival rate that those diagnoses were a death sentence for children in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And today the survival rate is over 90% for children in developed countries. And that's because of a one little flower. And so I try to tell these stories both to show how connected we are to nature, how much we depend on it, but also just showcase these really unique, sometimes strange stories with the hope that I can make the economic case, the political case, the social case, and also just the moral case for nature.
Yeah. And Natalie, I'm going to share with you. Sorry, I'm going to share. You're a first-time author, but you're a pretty fascinating young human. You've had this really interesting career and life so far. Do you want to share with us about that idea to write your first book and anything you want to share with us about you and your journey so far?
Yeah. Well, thank you for calling me young. Um, yeah, I've had quite a diverse career. I do a mix. I've been working in the environmental space my whole career. It all started uh, when I launched my first charity, which was a wildlife and environmental charity, whose this mission was to engage young people in wildlife and environmental conservation and to just make nature fun and accessible, and driven by young people. And over the years, my career sort of evolved where I sit on a few boards. I've worked with corporates and governments and do a bit of speaking, and it's all around the topics of environment and also human rights. We have a human right to a healthy environment. So this book was, I think it's an amalgamation of everything. It's my whole heart. It is my whole heart and my whole brain. It is I guess my rebellion, my love letter. It is what I think is important for people to know about nature. When I feel like you can read this book and get a really solid understanding of all of the different dimensions of how humanity interacts with nature, understand sort of some of the political underpinnings, but in really fascinating ways. You can You can have, actions, what you can do, the systems that are in place that sometimes drive harm, and so it's a book that I really felt like if people read it, they'll come away. I think it'll they'll be quite delighted, I hope, because it is funny and interesting and those sort of things, but they'll also have a guide for what
Yeah.
they can do going forward. And so I just felt we were at this point now where I can see people's eyes glazing over when I talk about when they hear about the environment. And the environment is inherently so fascinating. There's so many cool stories.
Yeah.
So it was I wanted to show how interesting it is, how it's not niche. It is for anyone and everyone.
Yeah. And look, Natalie, when I was reading the book, I was then sharing it with my two children, who are nearly 13 and 11. So it was really impacting me to share some stories with that next generation, because I think that's really important too as a parent.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Natalie, tell us how we connect with you. You have a fabulous website, that tells us all about you and the book as well. And I follow you on LinkedIn, so that's a great space to keep up with your journey. Tell us the best way to connect with you and the book.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably most active on LinkedIn and Instagram at
Yeah.
Nat Kyriacou. Yeah, they're probably the two main.
I'll put those references in the show notes to make it easy for anyone who's watching or listening around the world to connect with you and to get curious about you and the book. Congratulations, Natalie. Would you write again? I'm going to ask that cheeky question. Would you enjoy this one, but would you ever write again? Is there inspirations to?
I would love to. I hope I can. I hope I can make it work or even draw a livelihood from it one day. Honestly, writing it was the greatest joy of my life. I just loved it. I happy cried through the whole process. It was just, yeah, I really, really loved it.
That's wonderful. Wonderful to hear. Natalie, good luck. Thank you for joining us at Yellow Shelf.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.